Welcome to our 44th episode of Black Dance Stories. Here's a note about why we are here. Thank you for your patience, first of all. Our dance world was pummeled by COVID-19, and Black dance artists are finding ways to talk about life during this time. Our world was further turned upside down after horrible events ensued nationally and globally, bringing attention yet again to the need for the Black Lives Matter movement. Black dance artists have not been quiet. Black dance artists have been doing the work. Black dance artists continue to make work. To stay involved, we hold these weekly impromptu discussions and tell stories. Black dance stories. This is one action, and we will stay involved. We are a community working together to support, uphold, highlight, and celebrate Black creators. Tonight is our 44th episode of what we hope will be received, cherished, and known as necessary Black dance stories told in the artist's own voices. Tonight it's Laura Greer and Ann Williams' turn. Please meet some of our BDS family. I will go first. I am Charmaine Warren. I'm a light-skinned Jamaican. I am the great-granddaughter of Ida Boyd, granddaughter of Solomon Goldston and Ruby Chapman, and one of 9 children by Theophilus Warren and my 95-year-old mother, Pearline Warren, who lives in Jamaica. I am the aunt and grand aunt of 25 plus nieces and nephews at last count. I am a non-disabled Black woman. Now and forever, I promise to acknowledge those who came before me and have toiled to make it possible for me to be present on this land. Today, I give homage to the Native people by acknowledging that I live on the stolen land of the indigenous Lenape people, now known as Montclair, New Jersey, with my husband, photographer and graphic artist Tony Turner. Our daughter, Ashay Turner, a Black ballerina with locks, just completed her junior year at Boston Conservatory. I have locks that fall to my shoulders. I'm wearing a yellow blouse and large earrings wrapped with African print. Behind me are photos of our family, a large plant, a lamp, and African masks. Happy Black Dance Stories Thursday, BDS family. Like you, I am here because of our community. Let's keep the love strong. I turn it over to Kimani.
Thank you, Charmaine. And welcome everyone. In the words of Gloria Grimes, delicious, delightful dancing night. As you know, the importance of acknowledging our familial and dance legacies is an essential tradition. And in keeping with this tradition, I recognize my Indigenous brothers and sisters as a first step in moving toward action. With profound respect, I honor and acknowledge the Lenape, whose stolen land I am zooming from, currently known as the village of Harlem. I am a Black, non-disabled woman, and I live with my 10-year-old son. I am sitting in my dining room, surrounded by white walls. I have golden hair with close natural curls. I am wearing a golden tan shirt with white and red flower pattern. I have spiral gold hoop earrings. I am the granddaughter of Lucille and Melvin Madison. And on my paternal side, Gwendolyn I. Allen and Simeon Fowlin. I am the daughter of Ronald Augustus Fowlin, Jamaican warrior and gourmet chef, and Anne Fowlin, rebel and Renaissance woman. I dance because of them all. My son Tamayo, he is a visual artist already and poet, keeps me present as I witness this growing beautiful boy. I am in awe of his amazing talents and his blossoming spirit. And I turn it over to you, Makada.
Thank you, Kimani. Hey everyone, my name is Makada Lily and Wapinkosi Maggie Rose Romy. I am in this human experience as an able-bodied Black Indigenous American woman. Pronouns she, her, and they, as I am more than just me, I am all of my ancestors and spirit team. I come from a long generational line of artists and energetic intuitives, both on my maternal and paternal lines, the Love Roni line, which extends out through so many powerful people, names, and ancestors that I send my love and gratitude to every day, even by just being here. I'm the daughter of Mia Love and Antoine Roney, sister of Kojo Roney, Zipporah Roney, and Takwazi Love. All of us are beautiful, powerful artists. I am living in Harlem, which was respectfully and harmoniously occupied by the unceded Lenape. I am a life, body, soul alchemist in which I turn ethereal matter into what my soul is called to channel and express love, light, truth, which is dance, movement, poetry, and art. I'm sitting in my loft bedroom on a love seat. Behind me is a white wall and bookshelf and my window. There are also beautiful plants over there. I have my hair out in my natural curls. I'm wearing a red tube top with some flower prints that are white and the flower buttons that go down the middle. And I have a rose gold Hamza necklace on. So community is such a big part of Black Dance Stories. And we want to know who is watching tonight. So like this video, please, comment, drop some comments in the chat, say hello, where you're watching from. Feel free to engage throughout this whole conversation, ask questions, and share love. Please follow us on our social media as well. Our Instagram is @Black Dance Stories. Our Twitter is @BLK Dance Stories. Both of our Instagram and Twitter links should be in the chat as well as in the description of this video. And most importantly, please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We have a huge goal of making it to 1,000 subscribers, and we're so close. I think we have like 100 people left. So subscribe, share with your community. We would just love that. We also have a subscriber Sunday. So look out for that on our social media and also on our newsletter day where we illuminate our amazing community and just encourage more people to be a part of this growing, beautiful community. We always just want to thank everyone for your continual love and support. So without further ado, everyone grab yourself your cup of happy, which could be wine, tea, water, and let's cheers to Black Dance Stories.
Cheers.
Yes. And I pass it to Mama Kimani.
Thank you. So again, while we are still online in this way, please consider donating so we can keep it going until we're back in the theater. But we can't do it without your help, and donations are so greatly appreciated. And I also want to say, in light of the events, right, that continue, please continue acting, right? Our BDS team will continue to stand in solidarity with our sisters and brothers all over the world, with all those who want an immediate end to racial violence and systemic racism. Please do your part. Don't stay silent. I turn it back over to you, Charmaine.
Oh, I'll take it. I'll take it. Oh, wow. It's hot outside. It's always hot with the BDS family. So I'm glad you all are here. Thanks for your patience. Makeda and Kimani are going to leave for a little bit, but you know they'll be back. They will be back. They're not gone for too long. And we will bring Laura Greer to the box. Laura. Yes, Sister Laura Greer.
Sister Charmaine, how are you? Ah.
Oh, wait. What is it? Of
Actually,
course.
Apollo. But it's backwards.
Yeah, I know. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you.
Charmaine, only for you.
I know, and I'm so appreciative, but it's been so long. Okay, Look, I'm starting to chat, and you should introduce yourself.
So I'm Laura Greer. I am now in Brooklyn, in Park Slope, Brooklyn. I'm a Black woman with short hair. I live in, as I said, Park Slope, Brooklyn, on the ancestral land of the Lenape. I have lived in the same neighborhood for almost 40 years, except when I moved to Atlanta for about 6 years. I grew up in Roxbury, Massachusetts. I am the daughter of George and Margaret Greer and the granddaughter of Hamilton Greer and Ellen O'Brien Greer and Samuel Quealy and Anne Daly Quealy. My grandparents immigrated to the United States and they found their way to Boston. They immigrated from the small island in the West Indies called Montserrat. So I think of myself as a Monstratian in many ways. Montserrat, for those of you who don't know, it's a small British island, and many people might know it because in 1997, I think it was, they had a terrible, terrible volcano eruption. And so much of the island is uninhabitable. But my family always thought of Montserrat as home. I want to talk about or start my Black dance story. When Charmaine said, Laura, she said, I want you to do this. And I was like, Black dance story. I mean, I'm not really sure where to start or how I fell into this because I actually am not a performer. I'm not a choreographer. I am someone who is definitely good at administration, good at budgets, good at organizing. But this whole experience of being part of Black Dance Stories made me really think about what were the crumbs that kind of led me to what I do today. And what I do now is I am now the senior producer at the Apollo Theater, and I've been there for quite a few years, 15 years. And so I had to really think about, well, what was my history that led me to this place of being a presenter at such a revered theater. So my story starts in Roxbury. I grew up in Roxbury in a Black community. My parents actually purchased their home when right before I was born, actually, and we had the house until 2018. So that was almost 60 years of our family living in the same neighborhood and being part of a Black community in Boston. Boston's a tough place for Black folks, as probably many people know. And I think from an early age, I wanted to move, quite frankly, and go to New York City. But I actually had a wonderful childhood in Boston. So my crumbs, let me start with that. I have two sisters that I grew up with, and I have two stepbrothers that I did not grow up with. But my sisters and I had an amazing, I think, childhood. My parents made sure that we were involved in everything, particularly anything that was within our neighborhood or with people that we were connected with. So we started ice skating. I started ice skating at a very young age, and that was like 6 or 7 years old. And ice skating was such an important part of my upbringing, or growing up in Boston and growing up in Roxbury. My father owned a dry cleaners in Roxbury. My mother worked for the Boston public school system. So my parents were really hardworking, and we were very close to our, what I say is the West Indian community that my family was part of. So whether it was my aunts and uncles, my grandmothers, because my grandfathers were both had both died before I was born, but our family friends and our house at 33 Schuyler Street was the gathering spot. It was just everybody would come through our home. I guess I was in elementary school. This was during the late 60s, early 70s. And, Boston had these major riots right after Dr. King was assassinated. And at that point, my parents decided to basically take my sisters and I out of the Boston public school system. And so we went to school outside of our community. And I went to school actually as a young person in Lexington, Massachusetts, as well as Newton, Massachusetts. So both of those places, as you can imagine, were predominantly white. And so I would go from being in my Black community to going to the school in these different white towns. So it became really important for us to, at least in my opinion, and I'm glad my parents did this, to really be part of our local Roxbury community. And as I mentioned, we skated forever. And I mean, when I say skated, I'm talking about from Thursday through Sunday, we were skating. We were either skating in Dorchester, or my father would take us to different rinks all around different parts of Boston. I think the other thing that had such a real influence on us as young people, as I say, my parents were very West Indian, and in every West Indian house, at least that I went to, somebody had a piano, and that meant that you either, in my family, you had to take an instrument. So whether it was piano, violin, clarinet, whatever, you had to play an instrument. Well, I actually started playing the violin, and I did that for many years as a young person. And my parents enrolled me and my sisters in the New England Conservatory of Music. So that's kind of where like the idea of connecting to art and culture and being part of this cultural community started for me. And I took lessons on the violin for many years. I was not good, and come to find out years later, my mother finally revealed that she let me stop playing because the teacher told her she thought I was tone deaf. So I was able to stop playing the violin. But I still love the idea of being part of art and culture. In our neighborhood, there was a woman by the name of Elma Lewis. And Elma Lewis was a family friend. She was from Barbados, again, that West Indian connection. And she had a school, which was called the Elma Lewis School of Fine Arts. And I started taking classes there. My sisters and I, we had ballet. I took flute. I did take piano. I also took sewing. We learned to sew, and I learned to make my first dashiki at Alma Lewis. And she really was about creating a school that was, preserving and definitely fostering the cultural heritage of Black people in Boston. So she was really clear about that and wanted to make sure that we as a Black community could learn about our arts and culture, and do that in such a way that was in this really beautiful community. And I loved being there. I remember this really clearly, and I had to be in my kind of probably maybe 12 or 13 years old. Miss Lewis also created, which I think is still exists now, it was called Playhouse in the Park, and it was in Franklin Park, which I could actually walk to as a kid. And she would have these wonderful night performances. And years later, when you're a kid, you don't really always remember or know why you know certain things or who these artists are. But I remember she had people like Odetta and Olatunji and Duke Ellington. So I remember actually seeing these people perform at this Playhouse in the Park. So again, at a really young age, I was really being exposed to these Black artists. So my journey has been about this relationship to Black artists and to the Black community. When I was then a teenager, I started actually doing programs at the YWCA in another part of Boston. And that part of Boston was really culturally mixed. So all the people, the young women that went to this Y, we had Chinese, we had people from Central America, of course, African Americans, etc. But there, during that my time there as a young person, we created these different conferences. So I was organizing. I was a little organizer, and they were all these conferences about race, about social issues, stuff that was happening in Boston in the 70s. And that allowed me to do some travel within the Massachusetts, but also go to like New Hampshire and Maine and come to New York. So I always felt that like this relationship to, again, being part of a community of people who were either, I mean, now we call them activists. I think at that time it was just being, trying to be relevant, trying to be involved. And when, also during my high school days, I was also stage managing at high school. So I started doing this work again in the arts and finding my community. And I think that's, these little things that you kind of remember and you say, oh, maybe that's how it led me to the work that I'm doing now. When I went off to college, and I went to college at Byrd College in upstate New York, I wanted to live in New York City. I was determined to live in New York City as a young woman. Byrd College, if you know anything about upstate New York, it's like 2 hours away from the city. And but in my mind, it was still New York. It was still close to New York City, and that was great. But while I was at college, Byrd was also quite liberal. And when I say that, it was like my aunt said, oh, that's the hippie college. I remember her saying that. And I was like, oh my God, my parents are not going to let me go to the hippie college, the hippie school. But it was actually a perfect place for me because it allowed me, again, to delve into art. I thought I was going to become a visual artist, but I said, oh my God, I can't make money at that. And my father would have said, oh, absolutely not. But I was able to connect with a community of artists at Byrd. So my friends were dancers, choreographers, theater artists, directors. And I found that I was, again, really good at organizing and started to stage manage quite a few productions while I was in college. And then during college, I also started to come to New York. I had family here in New York City, and I had an internship at a place called the Center for Arts Information. And that was like a real eye-opening experience because it was this little space, but they had all this information about artists and grants and just, artists. I did a whole thing around artist colonies. And I couldn't understand while I was there why more Black artists weren't coming because the information was there and available. And I think at that point I decided I really wanted to have a job and work in the arts and make this information available. So once I graduated from college, I moved to New York City. My mother said to me, well, you can't move unless you have a job. And I begged the people at the Center for Arts Information to hire me. They did. I was making $100 a week. But I was also able to get an apartment out here in Brooklyn in Park Slope. And I think it was $250 a month. Can you imagine? I can't even believe it. But my parents, let me move to the city. I think I was about 21, maybe 22. It definitely helped that I had some friends here, and at the time, you do certain things sometimes because of the people you're connected with. And I had a boyfriend that was here in New York City, and so I was determined to get to New York. In my early days, um, of being in New York, um, I again would stage manage for friends and do different types of production work. And one of the experiences that really has stuck with me was doing some stage management for a friend at La Mama. And I'm not sure people know about La Mama. It's in the Lower East Side of New York City, and it was run by a woman. It was created by a Black woman by the name of Ellen Stewart. And I just loved being part of that community. After hanging out and doing those types of work, that kind of work, and I then I started to work at. I got different types of jobs. I was able to move on to New York Foundation for the Arts, and then I went to. Finally, I ended up at Aaron Davis Hall in Harlem. And that started I'd say that would probably started my dance career or my dance story. Even before that, actually, I had a really good friend that I worked with. Her name is Valerie Roshan, and she and I met at the New York Foundation for the Arts, and she was creating this Black dance directory. And I was helping her on that project. And I think that also just inspired me to know about all these dance companies that were all over the states, not just New York, but all over the United States. The other person that was also instrumental in kind of turning me on to Black dance was Byron Johns, and Byron worked with Kevin Jeff at the time. Now his name is Iega, but it was with Jubilation. So it was the early days of Jubilation. So all of those things kind of converged when I went to work at Aaron Davis Hall. And I also met Vivian Robinson. Vivian was really a wonderful person who created the Adelco Awards, but she also would traverse all over New York City to go to see, performance. And I went one night with Vivian to go see this amazing dance company. It was out here in Brooklyn. It was a series which was called Big, Black, Bold, and in Brooklyn. And that series was presented by a man by the name of Larry Phillips. And the company was Forces of Nature Dance Theater. And it was, they performed Marie Laveau. And so that was part of my, again, these early days in the 80s of really experiencing these amazing performers. Urban Bushwomen, I think I was at the very first show of Urban Bushwomen in the Village. While I was at Aaron Davis Hall, I was there for 13 years. And I would say that's kind of maybe where the grounding for my quote unquote Black dance story started, because I was able to create and present a series called New Faces, New Voices, New Visions. And I presented so many different artists under that series, from, Charmaine, probably, but there was just so many artists over the years. Marlise Yerby, Bill T. Jones and Rodessa with Idris Akamor. Who else? Gabi Krista, Ron Brown in his early days, Jimmy Turner, Maya Garrison. Oh, the list goes on and on. But I think one of the other major dance moments for me was seeing Dance Theater of Harlem at Aaron Davis Hall. And they did this whole Coming Back to Harlem event. And I was able to witness and watch Virginia Johnson perform in this piece by Garth Fagan called Footprints Dressed in Red. I'll never forget it. And I am such a Virginia Johnson fan. So I have come into my Black dance story as a fan. And then as someone who's just grown into this community, which I absolutely love. And after Aaron Davis Hall, I went on to work at 651 Arts. And before at Aaron Davis Hall, I wanted to mention, in 1997, a group of presenters, and that when I say a group, this is Mickey Shepard, Stephanie Hewley, Baraka Saleh, and myself, we presented a program called Dance Women Living Legends. And so that was the 5 Black women who made up IABD. And we brought all 5 companies to New York City and presented them on the stage of BAM 651. I did them at Aaron Davis Hall, and Stephanie and Baraka had them out at NJPAC, New Jersey Performing Arts Center. So this has been like all these wonderful, these wonderful moments. And I'm just so grateful to have been part of this community. And I think that's what I love about the Black dance community. It is a community. And it is and you can watch people move from one place to the next. And, you know, so many people that I see now, you know, I remember them when, you know, as dancers, as choreographers, as teachers, as people beginning their companies. I mean, and there's been so many, from Rennie Harris to, you know, Diane McIntyre, who's still, still working. Yes, Diane and Olu. Yes.
Okay, hold on to your names. Hold on to those names.
Hold on.
Because 1, you gave me a perfect segue. And 2, I have a little surprise, but I can't say right away.
Okay.
But come on in, Mama Ann, because you all have friends watching. And we should give them a little bit of a shout out. Hey, Mama Ann, come on in. So Robin Ball is here. Sylvia Duvant Hines. Hey, Mama Ann. M. Young Diva. Debbie Ardemendo. Evelyn Pace. Hi, Ann. Ann Davison is here. Leatrice Elzie. I hope I'm saying these names correctly. Noelle Phillips. Nina Olson. Linda Walton is here.
Hey, Linda.
Valerie Rashawn is here. And you just said it, Laura. Diane McIntyre is here, Mama Ann.
Oh, nice.
So just say hey to them.
Hey to everybody.
Hey, Mama Ann. So this is when I wish I could stay and interrupt y'all a lot, but I can't. So this is when I leave you two to have fun, because the perfect segue was living legends. Come on now. All right, I'll see y'all in a minute. Have a good time.
So Miss Ann, yes, Dance Women Living Legends, 1997. That was such a highlight to have you and Dallas and Philadelphia with Joan and Cleo Parker Robinson and Lula. And then Geraldine.
Geraldine, yes. Don't forget Geraldine, yes.
Yes. That was that was something, because to bring in 5 companies over a course of a week, to be able to figure out how we were splitting up all these performances, it was really something. That was wonderful. And we got a Betsy Award.
Yes, it was truly a great time. That was and not only just for the companies, the organization, but for the dancers. Now we have the International Association of Blacks in Dance, but this was the first time that the dancers of our companies had an opportunity to mingle in with the dancers of the other companies. And it was magnificent. So Alate, again, thank you. Thank you. We're waiting for a repeat now. We are waiting for a repeat, because that was fantastic.
Well, I have actually been dreaming about, how to do something like that. I would love to do a Black Dance Festival, and certainly have the 5 companies come to New York and present this program like that again. So how have you been? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I am retired, 4.5 years from Dallas Black.
Wow.
And still serve on the board and as an artistic advisor. But that really means just getting a call from the artistic director, Melissa, to tell me how good things are and come over and watch a rehearsal, and she's going to do this and she's going to do that, and it's just wonderful. The company is, I am so proud. I am just tickled pink.
That's wonderful. One of the, probably almost one of the last performances that I remember seeing before COVID was at the IABD in Philadelphia. And
Yes.
I remember the company performing Dallas, like, was just so major. It was so beautiful, and just took the audience, like, just it was just fantastic. And I actually remember going over to you and saying, "Oh my goodness, this is so wonderful." I don't know if you remember, but I remember
I do.
actually going, saying something to you. The company's so beautiful. Every time I've seen the company, it's just so exquisite. And I was just curious about, well, one, I know that the company, you started over 40 something years ago, right?
Yes, in 1976, 45 years ago.
Wow. Are you a native of Dallas, Texas? Did you grow up there?
No, I'm not. So you might just have to wait and hear my little history.
Oh, okay.
Where I'm from.
Okay, because I was like, okay, so I need to
No,
know.
but most of my time is spent in Dallas, and so that's what. But I'm a country girl.
Oh, okay. I was wondering. I said, I actually, I'm not a big Texas person, and actually, it comes from, interestingly enough, I remember as a young person, as a child, when Kennedy was assassinated.
Yes.
And I have to say, that was it for me. I was like, I will never go to Texas, And Dallas was just, I've never been to Dallas. So I have to say that that's just not been a place yet that I must visit. But it was definitely, and my psyche was like, it was dangerous or just scary.
Well, I think that as sort of what has happened in all cities, New York, there's
Sure,
stuff over and over and over again. But that was something new for the state of Texas, and especially for Dallas. And I think that left a hole in the country about a city at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're hoping that over time that has erased in some hearts, and we are going strong. That unfortunately those things happen, like what is happening now in the different cities. And but you were not the only one hurt. We were hurt also. I remember when that happened, I was working, teaching in the Richardson School District. And when they announced around noon what had happened, our school let all the kids go and let everybody out. And I remember that was the longest drive coming from Richardson, which is about 10 minutes from inner city Dallas, driving down that freeway, coming into the city and then trying to get home. So it was not a good time. But we're here. Dallas Black is here, and we represent the city well. So come on down, and we'll show you around.
Well, I definitely do, because if nothing else, I definitely have to walk down Ann Williams Way.
True.
I'm like, there's a street named after you.
That was an honor. That was an honor that unanimously by a city council upon my retirement. It was quite a surprise. And I have, I still can't say but Dallas Black Dance Theater has the best board of directors, and my board president and the members of the board, executive director, I think they all sent something in to the city council about what was happening. And the next thing I knew, they said unanimously, and that was a great celebration. So it was a great honor also.
Yeah. I guess, and you know, when in thinking about this conversation and thinking about you, and I remember, you know, Mickey Shepherd and I having conversations about the 5 women and the communities that you were all kind of deeply committed and embedded in your community. And I thought, well, they need to talk about that with a lot of the Black dance companies coming up, because you've been able to just sustain your, you know, this institution for all those years and have the support of your city. And I mean, I remember reading, because of course, I looked you up. I was like, okay. I was like, you have 50 board members? I was like, what? How did she even?
Yes,
I mean,
fantastic.
So-
And they are really guided by a wonderful executive director. I have a board chairman and a board president, and the 50 members that are very, very dedicated and very committed. And what I appreciate so much is that they have all been embedded in my vision. And since I've left, they have just carried on with the legacy and under the direction of our artistic director, Melissa Young, so supportive of her, which gives her the opportunity to now do her thing. And she is definitely doing it.
That's great. I mean, I think the other part for me, because of my father and my parents having their own business, having a small business within a community, just being able to know how to navigate a business, because you were running a business. It's a nonprofit, but it's still a business. And I'm just curious about that. And how did you navigate that? And
Well, the thing about it is that, and I'll kind of tell some of this later. I come from really a family of educators, and I never thought from the time of starting Dallas Black Dance Theater, I never thought it would be where it is now today. You know, I thought that I would just be teaching little kids to dance. And that grew. And in each stage of the 3 stages of Dallas Black Dance Theater, starting out as a community organization, then as a semi-professional company, and now into a full-fledged professional company where we have 11 full-time dancers, 12 full-time dancers on 11-month contracts, you know, and over these years, we've never missed a payroll, get good support from our city of Dallas, and with the 50 board members, they're committed. They make up community people, they make up corporate, and just help us maneuver and have helped us to make this company into a business. I always tell everybody that I am the founder, and you as a educator and a professional know that you can't do anything by yourself. So I think one of my greatest access is being able to communicate and to bring others along, and they buy into what you're trying to do, and then you really make them a part of it and make them to want to get you to that next level. And this is what has happened. I am so grateful to have been members of my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha, the
Wait,
Links
I was gonna
Incorporated.
pledge, AKA.
Yes.
my
Jack
was
and
gonna
Jill
pledge.
came up, Jack and Jill, majority came
Jack
up,
and
Jack
Jill,
and Jill.
okay.
The NAACP, lifetime member, Chamber of Commerce. Those organizations have, and those members, they were individual friends and have become lifetime friends and have just been supported
That's great.
as I have supported them in their endeavors also. And so it's been a good fit.
Now it's time for you to talk some more and tell us some more.
Okay.
All right, I guess I'm going, but I had a whole nother, I had a few more questions for Miss
And
Go
Hanson.
on, go on, Laura. Yeah, you were going to show that magazine to the,
Oh,
oh yes. Oh my gosh, I
we
remember that.
still
But it's
have,
backwards.
we still have that program also.
I know. I can't. You can't really read it because it's
Yeah,
back.
we can.
But
Yeah.
I forgot that Judith Jamison and George Faison were our hosts of that.
Yes,
that
they
event.
were.
I
Yes,
forgot.
they were. Yes, they were. And they were fantastic. You know, George was, in fact, I think Philadelphia did one of George's piece.
Right, and you all did Nacimiento.
Yes, we did Nacimiento, and that was historical and very great. So we enjoyed that. It was so fun. And the one good thing was that it was not a one-time thing. We had several venues where we could travel and go. And then the 5 women, we went out to a couple of the universities. They had us out there, remember, for just a forum of talking about our company.
Right. Ooh, going back.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was great. I remember it so well. I do. But the camaraderie of the 5 women, and right after that we lost Geraldine, but her daughter Debbie has stepped in, and so we're all still together, very close.
And Debbie's on next week. But
yes,
wait, we want to hear yours. We want to hear your story now, Mama Ann.
Okay,
Laura,
all
see you in
right.
a minute.
Okay, bye now.
And keep those questions, okay? Mama Ann, I know you have your glass of something.
Yes, I do. I have my glass of wine. You know, it is that time in Texas, you know. And to be retired, you know, I can have my glass of wine.
Wait, you can't cheers and not take a sip. You have to take a sip.
Okay.
Cheers. And I don't, you
and
introduce yourself, but this retirement thing, that's a word that we're going to talk about later. But go ahead, introduce yourself. And when you're ready, if you want to, Marcus can play whatever you want, okay?
Okay. Well, I am Annie Ann Farrell Williams. I am the daughter of Lord and Izora Coleman Farrell. I am the great-granddaughter on my mother's side of George and Ely Coleman. George was born a slave, and he lived to be 115 years old. And his wife, Ely, my great-grandmother, lived to be 97. There's a little story behind George. He was sold 3 times. As I said, he was born a slave and was sold 3 times. And on the 3rd time, his mother begged the slave owner to not sell him anymore. So they left him behind and sold the remaining of the family. And George never saw his family again. So that is my mother's side. I am the granddaughter of Nathaniel and Venezuela Coleman. Nathaniel, my grandfather, lived to be 105 years old. And my grandmother, Venezuela, lived to be 87. On my father's side, I am the great-granddaughter of Scott Farrell and Laura Henry Eppes. Born in 1853 was Scott, and my great-grandmother, 1856. I am the granddaughter of Sam and Leela Briscoe Farrell. I am talking to you from my home here in Dallas, Texas. I live in a section of Dallas that's called Oak Cliff, a very warm community. I have been here for 48 years in the same house that my husband and I had built. Oak Cliff, our neighborhood is a close-knit neighborhood of educators, attorneys, doctors. And I think they think it's kind of famous because about 2 months ago, there was a full-page story about the section of Cedar Crest neighborhood in the Dallas Morning News. I am 1 block over from the Cedar Crest golf course. And if I go out my back door, I can see the golf course. And of course, I think that's one of the reasons why my husband chose this section of Dallas, because he was a golfer. Sadly, I lost my husband 14 years ago. We have been married for 45 years, and we have 1 lovely daughter, Angela Nicole Williams. She now lives in Tampa, Florida. She's a graduate of Florida A&M University. She thinks there is no other HBCU, where she received her undergrad degree in the School of Business and Industry. And she received her master's degree from the University of Dallas in business management here in Dallas. Ann Williams grew up in a family of 12, 6 boys and 6 girls, including myself. And it was a time of joy in my teens of growing up. Being the 7th child, my 5 older brothers and sisters were never home during my teenage years. They were either in college, and I had 2 brothers that were in service then. And just to add, 3 of my 6 brothers were in service during their lifetime. Our family grew up in the community that's called Mahair. And I always tell people, if you are a Texan, or if you are from that area, you call that local community Mahair. If you're not, then you pronounce it as Mexican. It's a little Indian town in Limestone County. And of course, our homestead was in the country. And during my teens, my early from birth to age of 12, I would say those were some of the most happiest and joyful times that I can remember of my childhood. Always plenty of food to eat. We grew our vegetables. I remember my parents and relatives killing hogs. And I remember my mother and my aunt, grandparents, all quilting with the quilts in the ceiling. I remember them churning and making the butter. I remember our yards were full of peaches and plums and strawberries. And those were the best of my teen years. And I don't ever really remember going without a good meal. And I do mean it was a full meal of vegetables, fruit, and dessert. My mother's homemade peach cobbler. Let's see. Um, the best of times during those early 12 years was during the holidays, and especially during Christmas, when all of my other sisters and brothers were home, our relatives, and we would have what was called our family gatherings. We would start, because we were a big family and we had grandparents on my mother's side, grandparents on my father's side, we would go from my grandparents on my father's side in the morning to eat. And then we'd leave there and we'd have to go to my mother's side to eat. And then we'd come to our house to have our family dinner. It was always sort of like a debate between my grandparents where they wanted us, both grandparents wanted all of the family at their house. So I remember that's the only time when I would hear my mother or my father kind of say, well, you know, we'll be glad when this day is over with. But for the kids, it was fun because we picked up gifts at both places and it was wonderful. It was also a good time because we celebrated the 19th of June at a place that's called Comanche Crossing, which is still in existence today. My relatives, my grandparents, my parents were all part of Comanche Crossing, and the building and the carrying on of the activities that took place. My aunt always sold the ice cream, and of course that was always great. One of the other things that I would bring up now about Comanche Crossing, it was a 3-day activity celebrating the freedom of slaves. So it was called the 19th of June. So we celebrated the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And not only was it dancing and eating and fun, it was also spiritual. It was religious. And that is where I can remember getting my early, although we went to church every Sunday, but getting my early, I would say, intake of what it meant for slaves to have come through a lot of problems, for my great-grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, those that had problems, because we had what was called there a tabernacle. And of course, there were preachers that came in, there were singers that came in, and then there were the old hymns. And I only say this because when I first saw our Alvin Ailey's Revelation, all of those songs I knew, and I knew exactly what they meant, because as a teen, these persons, my ancestors, sang those songs, and that meant something to them. They talked about what it meant to them. I had a grandmother that I can remember, she could shout from the back of the church all the way down to the front of the church. And I remember some of her steps. She would make those steps to these hymns. So this is something that really has stayed with me throughout my religious life, of knowing that when there are times of troubles, there is someone higher that you can speak of, that you can talk to, that you can get on your knees, you can shout, you can pray to, and that eventually things will get better. And they would give testimonies of some of the kids that had gotten into trouble in their family. A child that was sick, someone that had got into the wrongdoing in the little city of Meher and maybe had gotten locked up. And then they would sing and pray and shout and go through all of these emotions. So those kind of things have stayed with me throughout my life. Although I'm a Catholic, it still lets me know the resilience of our people. And it still lets me know that you're going to have times when there's not going to be, everything's not going to be okay, but you have a way and a reason to go, and there's someone higher that you can go to. And so this was one of the things that I'm jumping, but when I first met Alvin Ailey, long time ago, he and I talked about these same things, and he brought up the same things that happened in his little community. And when he was going through all of the revelation things and thoughts and movements, all of the things that I'm talking about, he had also seen in his community. Once I left Sandy, or Meher Limestone, as it was called, we moved to Dallas, and I took my first dance lessons at the YWCA in Dallas. I took ballet and tap on Saturdays, while my brothers played football and sports and things on Saturdays. My mother carried me to the YWCA because she was involved in the workings of the YWCA. And I learned then and had my little recitals and became interested in the form of art. This increased as I went to Lincoln High School. In high school, I became a cheerleader, got in the dance group, and the interest of dance and my creativity increased. It was not until I went on a field trip, a school field trip, to see the opera Aida, that the magic of what the arts can do and can produce and can make you feel really came alive. But seeing that production, I guess I say today, sort of changed my idea of what I wanted to be. And so it is also to this day when I was with the company before I retired 4 years ago, and I would sit in the audience and watch the curtain open and the dancers come on stage. It was always my job, which I thought was to make sure that everybody sitting in that audience would feel that same type of magic in the movement and in the execution, the lights, the sound of those dancers and that production as I felt when I saw Aida. So I say that to say that being a professional dancer, wanting to be on stage, wanting to be in the Ailey company, the Dance Theater of Harlem, or any other company, just wanting to really be a professional dancer has never really been a desire of mine. Although I had the opportunity of taking classes under professional dancers, of studying under those persons, mine was more of trying to provide an opportunity for the boys and girls that wanted that experience, because I know that it takes a lot. When I left Lincoln High School, I went to Prairie View, and my teachers there were, my main teacher there was a lady that had been a member of the Catherine Dunham Dance Company. So I increased my studies then in dance, in modern dance, had my first Dunham classes, had my first African class, and also then found myself teaching the students at one of the elementary schools at Prairie View, and of course, then being a cheerleader. I love being a cheerleader. I'd been a cheerleader in high school. Leaving Prairie View, I came back to Dallas, and as I said, my family were members of the education field, the teaching field. My older sisters were teachers. I had a brother that's a teacher. Then I began to teach dance in the Dallas Independent School District. And as I would teach dance, I realized then that I needed more than what I was able to give the students. So one day I was looking through some pamphlets and I saw an advertisement of a Master's of Arts degree being offered at Texas Woman's University, which is in Denton. And that was the change of our life. Also during that time is when I married my husband. And he, at that time, was a coach in the Dallas Independent School District and later on became an administrator and retired as director of community ed from Dallas Independent School District. So when I went to Texas Woman's University, that was when I was able to take classes under many persons that I imagine some of you only have read about. I remember doing Doris Humphrey's Fall and Recovery. She's teaching that to us there. I remember having classes under Charles Weidman, Ruth St. Dentis, and was able one weekend with the support of one of the musicians to go to Jacob's Pillar and to meet Ted Sean. And seeing he and Ruth St. Dennis performed that weekend, and I can tell you now, it's not the Jacob's Pillar that it is now. It was concrete, it was cement rather, it was grass. But to really see modern dance, and I do mean pure modern dance. And these were persons that I had studied under at Prairie View. But then to be able to take a class under them, to sit under the trees, we sat on the ground and we heard them talk about their experiences. And then in the summer, my professor at Texas Woman's University, the head of the department, she would bring them to Texas Woman's University and they would do workshops. And Texas Woman's University was one of two, along with the University of Wisconsin, that offered a master's degree in dance and a PhD degree in dance. So during that time, most of the professors that were heading dance departments at regular educational college came to Texas Woman's University or the University of Wisconsin to get their higher education degree. And so I was there doing those 3 years with persons from Stanford that was heading the dance department at Stanford University. They're working on her PhD. University of Alabama, lady working on her master's degree, University of Mississippi, etc. And some of those persons have become longtime friends and we still communicate about our days at Texas Woman's University. But those were very, very good times. Good
Mama
times
Ann?
for learning.
Mama Ann,
Yes,
it's time.
I got to rush.
I can't believe my ears are going more.
I know. Well,
But I gotta
let
tell
me
you
just
this.
jump. I can jump
Yes,
because I do want.
Let's bring Laura back in as you're jumping,
Okay,
and then
all
I
right,
have to
okay,
tell you
good.
something.
Okay,
Come on back, Laura. Go ahead, jump.
okay. I do want you to show a couple of the videos that I sent. And because once you see those videos, it sort of like tells you where Dallas Black Dance Theater is and what has happened in my life of starting Dallas Black Dance Theater. Once I left TWU, I went to Bishop College, and that's where I started Dallas Black Dance Theater. And it was in those early years that I was able to bring in Arthur Mitchell and bring in Alvin Ailey, and at that time, Alvin came down with his company, came to do a performance in Dallas at the music hall. And of course, he came to Bishop, brought dancers to Bishop to teach my students, which then were members of Dallas Black Dance Theater. And I never forget that Gary DeLoach was one of the main teachers, and Arthur would come to Texas Christian University in Houston, and then he would bring his students over to do master classes for me at Bishop College. And one of his main assistants or teachers then was Scott, who I just love. So those are my early persons. And they were the ones that, after seeing my dancers, encouraged me, along with a couple of my dancers, to form a dance company. And the first thing I wanted to know, for what? I'm doing this, but it was a good idea, because once we did form, the company grew, and it grew so fast, and grew so fast till, it was hard to keep up with. So, but like I said, with community leaders, support from the city of Dallas, good board members and friends, this is where we are today. The company is located in the Arts District. We have our own building. It was a renovated building where I first learned to swim and later taught swimming there. And now it is a 4-story state-of-the-art building for the company. I often tell people that I always knew, like I said, I'm a planner and I'm a thinker. And I always had in mind that one day I was going to retire, and me and my sisters, we were going to travel together like family, because we are really family oriented. Oh. And so that's my plan, go travel. And that didn't happen. I've had ups and downs. I lost, didn't happen yet. Major car wreck and lost and hurt both of my legs, and so that stopped me from doing a lot of the teaching of the company. So then I had to reroute things and start bringing in people that could help support the company as teachers and choreographers. I was never a choreographer per se, a professional choreographer, started out, of course. Yeah. But one of my, the first, and Laura, you mentioned this, when we first we were invited to Brooklyn, and at the community college, Larry Phillips invited us up there, and that's where he invited, I had an opportunity to see Joan, Cleo, and Geraldine. And then on stage also was this tall, handsome guy, named forgot his name.
Jeffrey Holder?
No. Kevin Jeff.
Oh, Kevin.
Kevin. Ayega. Oh,
and I fell in love with him, and fell in love with his dancing, but I fell in love even more so with his style of teaching. Yes. And when he would do warm-up classes, I pushed my dancers into his warm-up class. And after that, I told him, I said, you've got to come to Texas and you've got to work with me on this company. And Kevin has been one of my sons ever since. He came down in the summers, he came down for residencies and taught the classes, strengthened the dancers, did some choreography. And that was a way then that I knew I could bring in other choreographers and other teachers like my director had done at Texas Women's University. So I find myself doing that. Yeah. And I went from there. Garth Fagan came through Dallas with, when he was Fagan and Garth with the bucket. you know,
Bottom of the
bottom of the bucket,
right?
but yeah.
That's right.
So he taught, we've remained friends ever since then. So I always get free tickets to Lion King. So, but you began to make those kind of
Wait,
friendships.
Mama,
and
Mama
those
Ann, I want to pause.
relationships,
I want
you
to
know.
pause 1
Okay.
second
All
and
right.
ask Laura if she remembers what was Ayega's company?
Jubilation.
Jubilations.
Jubilation, right?
Yes.
You mentioned it early.
Jubilations.
Yes,
Yes.
and
What do you
Yeah.
remember about Jubilation and Anayega in Brooklyn too?
oh, I remember, well, first I remember one of the first performances of Jubilation that I saw, which was at Aaron Davis Hall in Harlem. And Kevin, and at the time he was Kevin,
Yeah.
actually they had the company performing, what's that piece, Three Women? I forgot
Oh,
the name of
yes.
the piece.
Yes.
But,
3 women. Yes. Mhm.
They invited Roberta Flack
Yes.
to
Yes.
perform with the company, and she came. So I remember that very clearly. Then I saw them a number of, over the years, so many times. The other person of the company that I want to mention is Jamal Gaines.
Yeah.
And I really respect so much what Jamal has done here in Brooklyn, because he too started his company, but is he teaches. He has a wonderful group of young people, and I think he's kind of modeled much of what he's done after what he learned from Ayega and Jubilation. And then I want to say within the last 2 years, Jamal and Ayega did a performance here in Brooklyn.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
At one of BAM's spaces, BAM Fisher.
Fisher,
And
yeah.
what a beautiful show that was. It was,
Yeah, it was that coming together, the educators, right?
absolutely.
Yes.
It's so
Yes.
moving.
Yes.
And Mama Ann,
And
First
another
of all-
person that I brought in at an early stage was Donald Byrd too. Donald Byrd came to me, said one of the first pieces on me. Then he went to some of the other. Then of course Christopher Huggins and
yes.
Alvin sent me Keith Lee, who came and worked with the company for some time, and that didn't work out as a good fit, but a good situation. Keith was an excellent teacher. And so right now, I would say one of the legacies of Dallas Black Dance Theater is the training. I don't want, never did want dance set on them unless they had the technique. And that we've started in our school. We have a second company. We have 5 companies, 3 companies in the academy. Then the second company, which is the training company, and Melissa is able to get good dancers directly from the second company to go directly into the main company, because Nicole is one of their main teachers. And one of the other things about Dallas Black Dance Theater, my leadership there, is that all of the persons, I would never have left the baby.
The baby.
I would never have left the baby, let's say, as a burden. But all of the persons that are in leadership position that worked under me for 20-something years, and you would sit in the audience for the last 15, 20 years, and you're looking at them on stage and you're seeing everything is working fine and going, let me get the hell out of here and let these people take over and let them do their thing and bring in fresh new ideas. And I have not regretted it, not one time.
Well, I have to say this, that Laura, were you going to say something?
No, there was something that Miss Ann had mentioned early on, which was, she talked about creating opportunity for the young dancers, for young, whether it's dancers, choreographers. And I have to say, in my side of the world as a presenter and working as a presenter or curator, that has been such an important part of the work for me, which is about opportunity. But it was also about bringing, actually, quite frankly, Black audiences to see Black artists performing. And that even in working in Harlem, when I was at Aaron Davis Hall, or even at 651 in Brooklyn, it was, that to me is the joy. That has been the joy
Yes.
of the work. And that's what I absolutely love. So I felt this major connection with you, Miss Ann, when you talked about that in terms of opportunity and laying the groundwork for that. And knowing that that was, such an important part of your work with Dallas.
And I agree with you. So many of the people that you mentioned too, I go, oh my God, those crossed through my life too, so many of those persons. And but life has been good. And Charmaine, we can't thank you enough for carrying on the Black Dance series. This is the Black Dance Stories series. This is something that needs to continue. Hopefully that it will. And as you said, it's Cleo last week. Looking forward to Debbie. Can't wait to see Lula. And then of course Joan is going to close it out. Cleo, I call her my mountain sister. We all know where we are. And but back to the this is when I believe Joan first got an idea when she saw all of us in Brooklyn. And she went back, and that was really after that gathering, that was one of the starting of IABD, because she recognized there were other 5 women out here, 4 women like her that had the same type of companies. And then the next invitation we got was to come to a meeting with her to talk about these similar problems. But we all first met, and I have to tell you that coming out of one of those rehearsals in Brooklyn, and I was walking down the aisle on the way out, and back on the very back row was this guy slumped down in the seat with a cap on. And I got close to him, and he go, and I looked over, and it was Alvin Ailey. He had been watching the whole rehearsal that day. It was so amazing. Everybody else was just about gone. I said, no, you're not over here like this. I tell you. But he would do things like that when some of the companies would come to New York.
Community is strong, man.
Yeah,
so
it is.
I've neglected to mention some names, so I have to now. Elizabeth Zimmer is here. Janine DeRoe is here. Ooh. Willow Sanchez, and this person
one of my board members.
Okay, and this person said they are your sorority sister, Melanie Dixon. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Yeah, folks are here, and of course Melissa Young.
Good.
The artistic director of Dallas Black.
Okay, wow. Great.
Y'all make me I'm so happy. And Melissa's kicking lots of butt, right?
Yes, she is. And we're getting ready for an exciting 45th anniversary. I know nothing about what's going to happen. They'll tell me later. But one thing I do know is that the company has been invited to be in residency at Jacob's Pillow for a week. So That's going to take place in August, but then Melissa's going to, and that's an honor because that was something I had always wanted. Jacob Pillow going to invite us. They did, so now they did. So
well, maybe there's more in the air, Laura.
Yes,
that's more. Absolutely.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
Meanwhile, and you hear the retired woman talking, right?
I know.
Oh, yes, but I am for dance. I'm like you, Charmaine. I am for Black dance. IABD. I'm an advocacy for IABD, and of course, we're for all Black dance companies. But Dallas Black is my heart. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Laura has brought me to where I am too, so I bow down to both of you. Well, it's time to say goodbye. Believe it or not, it's past time to say goodbye. Can I do a couple
little shout outs only because.
That's exactly what I want to ask you now. Please, shout out.
I have to, over the years, there have been people that have been part of my dance journey. Melvin Davis, who was
Yes,
with
yes,
Thelma Hill. And
yes.
Melvin and I used to go to all these little dance theater, where all these places, DTW, the kitchen, the this, the that. So I miss him so much, and he was my dance buddy. The other person I want to shout out is Marie Brooks, because Marie, I presented Marie and worked with her many, many times over the years, and just adored her. And I wanted to just make sure to definitely recognize her. And then, you know, I do want to make sure to, when I was in Atlanta at the National Black Arts Festival, of course, my wonderful sister, Stephanie Hewley. But while there was, you know, Giwa Mata, there was Val Ethnic. We also
Yes,
presented
yes, yes.
Muntu and Chuck's company. So I just want to, you know, there's so many different companies and artists and people that have kind of, at least for me, have been so much a part of my dance story. Bess Pruitt, that's the other person. I don't know if I had mentioned Bess.
Yes.
She was the first person to take me to APAP in the 80s, and it wasn't called APAP, it was called Akuka. So there's just a lot of wonderful folks that have been in this journey that I have been connected to, and I just so appreciate all of that as a dance lover coming into my own dance story.
Great, great.
Mama Ann?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Hope Clark. I went to New York, and before I really got into the company, while I was even studying at TWU, I would run up to New York on the weekend and take classes under JoJo Smith and Luigi, and then ran across Hope Clark when they did Jelly Last Jam, went to see that. And so we became friends, and during the Gershwin Centennial, we were able to get the music to Koiga and Bess, and Hope came and choreographed that for us, and we were able to tour it. And she and I have just been like soulmates of sisters all this time. So I love her so much. And one of my other late person was Tally Beatty. Tally, I used to bring him to Texas and bring him in to set a piece on the company. And I remember when he came in to do Mourner's Bit, he brought the video and gave me the video to give to Daryl, who was my rehearsal director. And Tally sat out on the little patio of the studio and watched the birds go by, you know, and I wanted to know, Tally, are you going to? No, Daryl can do it. And, you know, I mean, but he was really my heart. And my daughter and I would always come to APAC in December when they were having it in December. And we would always be able to go over to his apartment, which was across the street from the Hilton. And once he gave a little, what he called a little teat for me, and that's where I met Romero Byrd, and we had other guests in, and
wow,
it was just so those kind of relationships, and then my sister that lived in Monterey up by Carmel. When I would go to visit her, I could run down to Irvine and visit with Don McKell, you know, and got to know him. And Don McKell came down and said Angelita's on Melissa, you know, and he would come down and teach. So these are the experiences that my dancers had from these persons. They would have never in Texas, they would have never had a chance to meet them, you know, on their own. So these types of things, Ralph Lemon was one of my first teachers that I brought down too. So that is what I most think about is those kind of services, you know, exposing them, and they're all grateful for it, you know.
Thank you. Another full
He was going to show some choreography. Show some of my choreography.
No, it's time to go. It's time to go.
All right. Okay. They can go to the Instagram and look at it. Yes.
It's 7:36. And I told you, and we want them to see you live. We want them to see stuff live. That's what Black Dance Stories is working towards, getting people to see dance live again. Be safe, but let's see some dance live. And we will share some of the videos for sure.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to turn it over to Makeda.
Thank you, Charmaine.
Oh,
Bye, Laura. It's nice
Bye,
sharing this
Ann.
with you.
don't go
Nice
anywhere. Don't go
sharing this with
anywhere.
you.
Don't
I'm
go
not.
anywhere.
I'm not.
Maki.
I'm not.
Yes. Thanks so much to everyone who's watching for being here with us tonight. Reminder to like and comment on this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on our social media so we can grow and grow this beautiful community. Also, a huge thanks to our co-presenting partner, 651 Arts, for helping to make Black Dance Stories continue to happen. You can check out all the wonderful things that they are doing on their social media. Their Instagram is @651arts. So if you missed last week's episode with Cleo Parker Robinson and Colleen Jennings Roggensack, make sure to go back and check it out. Next week is Linda Walton and Lulu Washington. And we also have Danny G and Debbie Blendon Diggs on June 24th, and Mickey Shepard and Joan Myers Brown on July 1st. So save your Thursday evening date,
Yes.
and we'll see you next week. And I will pass it to Mama Charmaine.
And I'll take it. Thank you again for your patience. Thanks for staying with us so late. We appreciate you hanging out with us. And if you haven't yet heard, BDS will take a hiatus from presenting live after July 1st, but the community will still be hard at work. Our Black dance community will still be hard at work championing Black dance and artists, so stay tuned. And as Congressman John Lewis always said, go out there and get into some good trouble. We love you all. See you next
Thank
week.
you.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.